Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and again, welcome everyone. And thank you for coming. Again, I would like to start with a short mindful breathing exercise to help us to quiet our mind, to bring our mind in moment, present. And then we try to generate good intention, motivation for being here before we start the talk. Okay. Make yourself comfortable. And try to relax as much as you can. And let your natural state of breathing while you inhale and exhale naturally. Try to keep your mind watching mindfully the breath. And being aware of what you observe. Simply just observing and being aware in relation to the breath. Once your mind is settled down, then we can think. As long as our mind is not subdued, disciplined, we will never be able to find true inner peace, calm, and joy or happiness. No matter what the external conditions are. No matter how good external conditions are, we will always find something that disturbs our mind. We will always find something that agitates our mind. We will always find something that we are not happy about. Feeling miserable, unhappy. On the other hand, if we are able to train our mind, subdue our mind, and discipline our mind, even though when external conditions are not great, best, we can still be able to find calmness, peace, sense of satisfaction, content, and happiness. Therefore, the real primary cause of our unhappiness, miserable, or our inner peace, calmness, joy, comes through our own mind, mainly from our own mind, not from the external. Therefore, it is so important to really work with our mind, to discipline, to subdue our mind through practice, meditations. Not only for our own mental peace, joy, and happiness, but also to be more beneficial to others. And for that, to train and to discipline, subdue our mind, we need to contemplate, meditate, practice. And for that, we need to continue to learn about the practice, continue to remember to practice, to remind ourselves of the practice all the time. For that very reason, I'm going to listen. Not only listen, try to integrate as much as possible in our everyday life. And not only to ourselves, but in order to free and liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, and to lead them to ultimate happiness. I must achieve my highest potential, fully awakened state. In order to achieve that fully awakened state, I must practice correctly, continuously. For that, I need to be reminded and continue to study, learn. For that very reason, I'm going to listen. Okay, so into the refuge.
So taking refuge in generating bodhicitta once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam Janchu Baru Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonen Gepe Sonamgi Drola Premshir Sangye Drupa Sho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Janchu Baru Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi chonen gepe sognamgi drola penshir sange drupa sho.
Ngi du jeni sonen, atum je pambe je, tambe chune tun je pe, godam de la cha cha. So, we have been going through this gradual path, Lamrim, by the Third Dalai Lama, and we're in the sections of what is known as the Great Scope practice, the Bodhisattva practice, which is the main actual subject of this text and the practice. And within that, then there is a generation of the bodhicitta mind, and then engage in the practice of 6 paramita. And within the practice of 6 paramita, we spoke about the practice of generosity, the practice of moral discipline, bodhisattva moral discipline, and the patience. And I think we spent quite a bit on that patience. We are on that sections. And we are at the very end of the patience sections. And again, as we discussed, so-called patience here is the mind that is undisturbed and unagitated by whatever happens, whether it is created by someone else or whether it is happening in our life naturally, whatever, not allowing ourselves or our mind to be disturbed and agitated, to be able to keep our mind calm and peaceful, regardless of what is happening. That's the patient mind. And we talk about many different methods of meditation practice, different analytical meditations we talk about, going through that, how to keep our mind undisturbed, unagitated when things are not going well, when things are challenging, when things are difficult, whether it's created by someone else or whether it's, just happens, But how can we keep our mind undisturbed and agitated? Through using different way of analyzing, thinking different ways, through that. So and then I think, yeah, in generally, how to face patience in the face of harm by others, how to practice patience dealing with pain and sufferings, how to face and practice patience in in engaging in the practice of virtues and dharma, and so I think that, and so there here, the author, he quotes from Geshe Rinpoche. I think that's where we left as last time, yeah. I think that's page number 26 at the very last of that, where it says Geshe Rinpoche said. So he's quoting from Geshe Rinpoche Lama Tsongkhapa. And what Lama Tsongkhapa said is, patience is the best ornament of the real heroes. So patience, the real heroes are those, the bodhisattvas, who work for benefit of not just themselves, but all sentient beings, who work for well-being of all sentient beings. That is the real heroes, who sacrifice their own well-being for the benefit of others' well-being, other sentient beings. Those are the real heroes. One. Saving someone and killing another one to save someone, I don't know that's a real hero. But when you are able to save someone without hurting, harming the others, those are real. And so anyway, so the bodhisattvas. And for such heroes, real heroes, the patience is the supreme ornament. What is the ornament? Why we use the ornament? The ornament we wear them to look more attractive, more nice. The ornament that is what people wear the ornament to look better, to look more attractive, better. But what makes you someone real attractive, real beautiful, inside, outside, is the patience. Patience, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. These are the qualities that make someone beautiful, not from just external, from inside. Beautiful, nice, attractive, everything from inside, outside. So therefore, that is the supreme ornament that beautify oneself. Not only external, internally. He mentioned, a supreme hardship to overcome afflictions. In order to overcome the afflictive emotions, defilements, which are the source of our pain, suffering, as well as those are the source of pain and suffering that we bring to others. The reason sometimes why we hurt others, why we harm others, and why we bring pain to others is because when we are overwhelmed by one of those afflictive emotions, delusions, and therefore that is the root of our own pain and pain for others, from whom we bring pain to others. So in reducing and overcoming those afflictive emotions, especially afflictive emotions such as anger, hatred, ill will feelings, grudges, resentments, all these kind of afflictive emotions, the supreme hardship or the antidote is the patience. And it is worthwhile to go through hardship to develop that patience to overcome that afflictive emotions. Even if we need to go a little bit of hardship, in order to cultivate that patience so that we can overcome those afflictive emotions, then it's worthwhile, because that will help you to find real peace in yourself, real calmness in yourself. And also through that, you will be able to help others and not to hurt and harm others. Also, patience is the best supreme protections. Protection for yourself, protection for others. Protecting yourself from being harmed by those anger, hatred, ill will pain, feeling, resentment, grudges, all these feelings. When we have all these feelings, is not a nice feelings. It's not a healthy feelings. It's not a helpful attitude and feelings. Those are very painful and harmful feelings. So when you have patience, it protects you from that, all this. And also it protects others from you, from us receiving harm, because when we are under the control of anger, hatred, resentment, grudges, ill will feeling, we tend to hurt and harm others. By practice of patience, when we are able to stop those negative feelings, thoughts, then we don't hurt and harm others because of those thoughts, feelings. So again, it protects yourself, it protects others. It's the best protections. The Garuda bird to destroy the snake of anger, So Garuda is, the yeah, they eat and they kill and eat the snakes, So giving example like that, So therefore, the patience is like the Garuda, and the anger is like snake, where the patience can destroy the anger. Is the supreme destroyer of the anger. Is the supreme antidote to destroy the anger. Amor to protect you from the arrow of criticisms. And it is like an armor to protect you from criticism, feeling hurt and harmed by others' criticisms. Just like when you go in the war, you wear a armor, the army wear armor to protect themselves from being hurt by the enemies. It's a protections. In the same way, patience is like that protections from criticisms. At the moment, a lot of time when we hear people criticize us, we feel hurt, harm. By feeling hurt and harm, we experience a lot of pain. We experience a lot of pain. And that pain gives rise to anger. But when we have this amount of patience, let others criticize if they want to criticize. Let other people say whatever they want to say if that gives them something. But you have this armor, not being disturbed by that, not being hurt by that, not being harmed by that. And because you are not feeling the hurt and harm by others' criticisms, you don't experience the pain. If you don't experience the pain, it doesn't allow you to have anger arising towards that person's. And so, when we have that kind of patience, then, it is like you are able to hear from one ear and you are able to let go from other ears without taking in, And so you don't really get hurt by that. You can just let it go. Just like a wind blowing, You see that criticism coming, you hear it, but you can just let it go without taking it too personal and being hurtful. Mm. And I think we really need to have those tools, ability to do, because no matter what you do, what you are, there is always going to be criticisms. Nobody can escape from criticisms because everyone has different view, ideas. And there will always be someone who doesn't agree and who have different opinion on everything. And since they have their opinion, their view, they will express their view, their opinion. They will not be agreeing with your opinion, your views, even with just two persons, even in families, And so then, if you don't take it too personal and if you can just let it go, then, you don't feel hurt. You don't feel hurt. If you don't feel hurt, you don't have to experience the pain. Not only you don't have to experience the pain, if you feel hurt, then you experience the pain. And when you have pain, a lot of time we get angry to that person because we believe that person created that pain to us. And so again, and so therefore here is saying that's the best armor to protect from criticisms. Knowing this, in every way, familiarize yourself with the armor of patience supreme. And so with such understanding, here Lama Tsongkhapa encouraging us to practice patience and cultivate this armor of patience, all the time. And by using many different practice meditation technique to cultivate the patience, to maintain the patience, to increase the patience. Patience is not, as I mentioned many times, patience is not something external, it's internal. Patience is not being passive. It is a state of mind. A lot of time people feel patient means being passive. So as long as your mind is undisturbed, unagitated, calm, peaceful, you can be active. You should be active. You should take actions. So taking actions doesn't mean not being patient. Patience means with what state of mind, whether you take action, not take actions, So that is one important thing. Otherwise, sometimes people ask, when is the time when say enough is enough? When you say my patience is gone, enough is enough. And that is a little bit misunderstanding what patience is. When you started to think enough is enough, and no more patience, that means you understood something as external actions. You are being passive, and now you think it's too much, and now I feel I need to confront, take actions. I hear some caution, sometimes caution, such cautions, and that is not understanding what really patience is. Real patience is the mind, and so that is the key. Remember that. Mm. So then The fourth practice of paramita or perfections is the practice of, joyous perseverance. So here, how to train in the perfections of joyous perseverance. What is the joyous perseverance? Again, joyous perseverance is, we have to understand, is mainly the mental state. The joyfulness in your perseverance, in your effort towards virtues. The objects of this paramita, of your joyous perseverance, that objects of that practice is always virtues, not a joyous perseverance in a non-virtues. We can have joyful effort, joyful perseverance in a non-virtues, negative, or even maybe neutral things, objects. That is not the paramita we are talking about here. The bodhisattva practice, the paramita of joyous effort, is that your joyous effort is towards virtues, towards something wholesome, actions, wholesome thoughts, wholesome practice, Mm. Out of that joyfulness, in engaging into the virtues, putting effort or perseverance in the virtues out of that joyfulness, then, whatever perseverance you put to the body, speech, and mind, then that is the joyous perseverance. Mainly the joyful mind in having that perseverance toward the virtues. And in order to engage in such practice, joyous perseverance towards virtues, like everything, all other meditations, it will be helpful to meditate on the benefit of the practice of joyous effort. The more benefit you feel, the more you get inspired and enthusiasm in engaging in that practice. If you don't understand the benefit of that, the positive result of such practice, then you might be less inspired. You might be less enthusiasm in engaging in such practice. Just like everything else, when there is some new objects come into the market, the more you hear how this can solve that problem, this problem, this problem, the more you feel like you need to get it. And that is what all the marketing are doing. The marketing business is all about that, to make you wanting to get that objects. Similarly, also in our meditation, in our practice, if you don't have enthusiasm in any, let's say any particular practice, meditations, whether it is a joyous effort, whether it is a patience, whether it is a emptiness, whether it is a bodhicitta mind, sometimes because we don't really understand the incredible benefit of those practice and the realization of such practice. The more you understand the benefit of them, the more you will be inspired enthusiasm to develop those qualities. And so meditating on that can be helpful to begin at the very beginning, to inspire ourselves, to have more enthusiasm, to engage in the practice, to develop that quality, that spiritual realizations within ourselves. And Maitreya in his ornament of the sutra mentions, among all the virtues, the joyous perseverance is the supreme, because all the positive inner qualities, the spiritual realization, spiritual experiences, all come through joyous effort. If there's no effort, you cannot achieve anything. Even in ordinary, even in success for our life, we don't even talk about the spiritual, realizations, experiences. Even in our ordinary life, even to accomplish a lot of things that we want to accomplish in our life, perseverance. We need the perseverance. Go through full effort. Without perseverance, without hardship or effort, and wanting to have the best result without any effort, without any perseverance, that might be just, empty wish, So, especially when we engage in the Dharma practice, in our spiritual practice, if we want to achieve, any of those spiritual experience realizations, whether it's true loving kindness, bodhicitta mind, compassion, true patience, wisdom realizing emptiness, and all other different level of spiritual experience realizations, we need the perseverance. Not only perseverance and effort, we need joyful perseverance, joyful effort. And when there is joyful effort, joyful perseverance, then, realizations and spiritual experience realizations can come more quickly, more easily. So that is, if we talk about Buddha Shakyamuni himself, even we try to understand from ordinary point of view that Buddha Shakyamuni was just a bodhisattva. But he was very highly realized bodhisattva before he achieved enlightenment. Even from that point of view. But even him, when he was meditating 6 years, some of you might have seen the image of that. There is I think it's bronze statues still now in one of the museum in Pakistan. And His Holiness Dalai Lama, one time, he had printed and he gave to all the monks. And he says, he had that also on his altar. It inspired him. If the Buddha himself went through so much hardship or effort or perseverance to achieve that, we can't expect to have that result having without any effort, without much effort, without little hardship, just by enjoying, without hardship, without effort, perseverance, and just enjoy, and still we want the same result. In terms of wanting the result, same, but we don't want to go through same perseverance, effort, hardship like Buddha himself went. And that might not be possible. So one of the greatest master in Tibet, very inspiring. Milereba, he became who he is, very inspiring, enlightened beings because of all perseverance, effort, hardship that he went through. He meditated day and night. Like he used to, he used to bind himself so he don't fall asleep. Sometimes you will put something on his head so that he don't fall asleep. And if he falls asleep, it will awake him up. And that is, you see sometimes in his picture, like being bind with his leg, that is, so he saw every moment so precious, didn't want to waste every moment. And therefore, day and night, with so much perseverance. And that is how he achieved. There is a story of one of his main disciple, Rejung. Rejungpa, one of his main disciple, very handsome, tall young man, very bright, who also went to India to study with Milarepa, also to India as well. And so, as you know, Milarepa didn't stay at one place. He keep on wandering from one mountain to another mountain, one cave to another caves, so that you don't get attached to one place. Even in cave, even in mountain, you can get attached to it. After some time, you started to make your cave better, nicer, isn't it? You could get easily, just as you get attached to your house here, you could easily get same attachment to your cave, even in those mountains. You could get attached to your place, your mountains. So one of the way for him is not to let go of attach, not to have any attach. He keep on moving, from place to place, so that you don't get so attached. So anyways, so because of that, he moved around, wanderer. And then he has been staying in one place for a while, and some of the students surroundings. And then he was going to go to another places. And then he told his disciple Rejung, who was there, I'm leaving tomorrow, come tomorrow next morning, I will give the last instructions. And he was so excited and happy that I will get the final instructions. That was not last, not the last, the final instructions, meaning the highest instructions. I will give you the final instructions. And so Rejungba was very excited and, to get the final, the best, supreme instruction that. And then he came, and then, Milereba passed there, and then he took his rope like this, and he showed his buds. And that was his final instructions. What is it? Because he had been sitting so much day and night, his bud was some sore, some sore, and his bud was kind of, so that final, with that showing and final, the instruction was put perseverance, effort. Without all this effort, without all this perseverance, you will not achieve. So he is saying him, whatever I have been able to achieve, whatever small realization I have been able to achieve is because of all this perseverance. And by showing him, this is how I did. This is how I did. And if you want to achieve realization like myself, this is what you need to do. Such are the example of earliest great masters, that whatever spiritual realizations they have able to achieve, they achieve because of a lot of perseverance, a lot of hardship. We meditate half hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If we do 1 hour, we think we are doing a lot. And even that, not regularly, sometimes maybe a couple of times a week, sometimes for weeks we don't do, sometimes for months we don't do. Again, we do few days, few weeks. And then we complain, oh, there's no realizations. We complain there's no realizations. There's no transformations. There's no change. Yeah. And that is not how it works, you know. Yeah. And then we complain, yeah. So therefore, perseverance is so important to have the spiritual realizations. So, and in order to develop joyous perseverance, the paramita of joyous perseverance, like in practice, there is obstacle to cultivate those spiritual realization, inner qualities, and there are supportive conditions that can help us to develop those spiritual realizations. And so, in terms of joyful perseverance, the the obstacles or the interference is the laziness. Is the laziness. And in terms of the laziness, there could be many different levels of laziness um, from the practice point of view. One laziness which we have very, is not today, tomorrow, not morning, evening, and by evening, not today, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, oh, I feel a little bit tired, or I don't feel like, maybe tomorrow afternoon, next week, next month, next year. Time goes by, you know. Feel like there's so much time when we look in our life. Suddenly, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years pass. You don't even feel like it was 20. It feel like it was only 5 years, 2, 3 years, but 25 years has already gone. That is how I feel. I feel like I just graduated not long ago. you know. But it has been 25 years since I first came here. Almost 25 years. So time, we don't even aware that time goes so fast. Even though we feel, there's a time, and so we feel next year, next year. So that is one of the laziness. We keep on kind of postponing by thinking there is almost like as the time will wait for us before we finish things that we need to finish. You might have many or little few lists what you want to do, important things. If the Dharma come in there, and we keep on postponing as though the time is going to wait us to accomplish all of that. That's not how the time doesn't wait for that. Time doesn't wait for that. So that is one of the laziness. Another laziness, maybe we wouldn't call laziness in normal world, but from the Dharma point of view, it is part of the laziness. Being distracted to non-virtuous things and being distracted. And that is one of the things why we don't have time to virtues and Dharma practice, is because we get distracted so many other things. And so many other distracted, so many other things, we spend so much energy, time, resource, and then we feel tired and not enough energy to do the practice, meditation, because you are already kind of, exhausted. You are already feeling too much because we got distracted and attached to other things. And so much time is spent on that, energy is spent on that. So then we find hard to find time and energy to practice for meditations, whatever form of practice, meditations. We struggle to that because even though we have time, because our time is so much distracted with other things, so many other things which are not necessarily very important in our life, not necessarily very meaningful when you look back, a lot of things that I was distracted, enjoy. When I look back, there's nothing really meaningful about that. There's nothing really that, you are proud and feel satisfied and good about that. It's just another enjoyment and another distractions. Nothing's real meaning. So that is one, from Dharma point of view, from spiritual, that is counted as one of the laziness. By being distracted on that and then not having the energy and time to really give your time to the practice itself. The other things is, not having self-confidence. Laziness in the sense that you don't have self-confidence, so then you don't have the energy, enthusiasm, and effort in doing that or accomplishing that. Not having the self-confidence. Here we are talking about having the self-confidence in the virtues, in the Dharma practice, especially here, self-confidence in the bodhisattva practice. The self-confidence in the practice of bodhisattvas, bodhisattva path, bodhisattva practice. So those are some of the obstacles. Some people, they don't have the enthusiasm, joyful perseverance in the bodhisattva's path practice because they don't have the self-confidence that they can do it, they can practice it, they can make it. They feel, it's too much for me. I'm not capable of doing all this bodhisattva practice, all this path, So not having the confidence is that doesn't give them that enthusiasm or the joyful effort or perseverance in the practice. And some even they have the confidence, but then the other laziness, they get distracted to unwholesome things or neutral, non-virtuous things, or they keep on postponing, not understanding. So over to. And so that is where it says in the text, if you do not meditate upon the this disenchantment with the samsara and the desire for low quality happiness, not true happiness, samsaric pleasure, happiness, such as gained by lethargy, indulgence, sleep, and so forth, you will continue to be overcome by the laziness. Mm, yeah, this is what we have been doing so far, and we are still being overcome by laziness. And if we don't overcome that, probably it will keep on just like that rest of our life. So we need to overcome the laziness, the laziness. So there it says in the text, it says, abandon all the causes of laziness, all that lead to laziness, and devote yourself solely to the noble works of the bodhisattvas, of body, speech, and mind. So how to come the laziness? Especially two laziness. The first two laziness of keep on postponing, and laziness of being distracted to the unwholesome actions or samsaric pleasures, you know, samsaric things, samsaric enjoyment, and so forth, meditating on impermanent in general, and especially meditating on that impermanent is very powerful to overcome those two, interference or obstacles to develop um, joy in virtues and to overcome the laziness. Especially meditating on that, not only you are going to die, which more or less we all kind of know a little bit, even though that thought doesn't come to us all the time, but in backside we all know we are going to die one day. Even though that awareness is not there active all the time, you see something happen and then suddenly that awareness comes. You hear some of your friends, family, colleague pass away, and then you feel like, oh, that that seems closer and become more real for a short period, sometime maybe a few months, sometime for a few weeks, sometime for a few days, sometime for a few hours, and then back to our normal. Back to our normal again, as though that is not so close, and as though it's not going to be happening for a while. But when something happens to someone, especially someone close to you, we have that feeling awareness kind of being a little bit kind of awakened that, but it doesn't last. So there, at least that is a little bit there. But the thing is that the feeling that I'm not going to die soon, is always feeling there is time all the time. I'm going to die, but not this next 10 years. Or maybe I'm going to die, but not next 5 years, not this year, not this month, for sure not this week. There's no any indication that I'm going to die in this week, for sure, not in this week. That kind of feeling. So when you meditate on death impermanent, especially in meditating on death impermanence, that death could come anytime. Anytime. That you have this understanding, awareness. Not only death is going to come, it could come anytime. It could come after 20 years. It could come in 10 years. It could come in 5 years. It could come in 1 year. It could come in 1 month. It could come in 1 week. It could come in 24 hours. Through such meditation, when someone really meditates that and when they have that understanding, realization, awareness, then they feel every moment is precious. Every moment, it is like they feel like I might have only 24 hours. I might have only 24 hours. Therefore, how can I utilize these 24 hours to maximum best? You know. So when you do that, then there is no time for laziness. And that is what someone like Milarepa, you know, of course, you know, he faced almost death himself because, you know, his uncle's family was chasing him and trying to kill him for what he did to destroy them before. And he ran away from them. He was able to run away, escape from being beaten dead. And then that is when he changed his mind and then turned to the Dharma. And then he really went into the Dharma, searched for the teachers, and then he really dedicated that, you know. So not only he almost, you know, came out of death himself, but also meditating on that impermanent, death impermanent. And therefore, you know, he felt every moment is so precious. So he felt, you know, every moment so precious, so he didn't want to waste. That's when he didn't want to sleep and even meditate, even night, not sleeping. And he managed it without sleep to be able to meditate, to practice, and to function. Mm. And so also there is a story of one of the Katamba masters. I cannot recall the exact name and the exact Katamas. You know, again, he was meditating in the cave. And by the opening of the cave, there is a small kind of, bush that came. Every time he go out and then it will kind of bother him, because it's coming. So, and when he comes, he's thinking, oh, I need to cut it. So I will go for the toilet, they didn't have bathroom inside, okay? No bathroom attachment, cave. But if I want to have cave, I would like to have bathroom attached. The most beautiful cave. So those masters, they didn't have that, okay? So they have to go outside for the to go to the bathrooms. So when he come, because it is something, and he feel when I come back, I will need to cut it. But when he started to think of impermanent and dead impermanent, then he feel, oh, no time to cut it. Instead of making the time to cut it, it's better to meditate. And he start not cut meditate. And that is, how, and there's similar stories, others similar like that. So when they meditate on this impermanent and dead impermanent, and this have this awareness all the time. When we talk about realization, we are talking about that awareness being awake and alive all the time. It's not like I have this awareness 20 years ago, and now no more there. Or that I have awareness this morning, and then I forgot now. There is a difference between realization and not realization. When we talk about realization, spiritual realizations, when you have that spiritual realizations, you have that awareness active all the time. And so in terms of when you have realization of that impermanent, that this awareness, not only you are going to die, but it could be any time. That awareness is alive and awake all the time. And when you have that awake all the time, you feel every moment so precious. You might only short period. You might only have that, and you don't want to waste it, and you want to use it to maximum whatever. And here, use it to practice the bodhisattva path, engage in the practice that help benefit other sentient beings and yourself, that benefit everyone's, so using every moment for that. And so when you have that, when you meditate on that, then you started to have disenchantment towards the samsaric enjoyment, samsaric pleasure, because you cease those samsaric enjoyment, samsaric pleasure, samsara is, essenceless in a sense. It doesn't have much essence, Um, it's not real true happiness. It doesn't give you true happiness, real happiness, And so you don't get attached to that. You don't get enchanted. You get disenchanted. But shouldn't we get enchanted in this state? The state of enchantment? Maybe we should change the state of disenchantment. Maybe all of us change the plate. Disenchantment. No. So anyway, so then you don't get attached to that. And then you don't get enchanted, attached. Instead, you get disenchanted. Basically not being attached. If you don't get attached to that, you get less distracted towards that. You get less distracted toward that. If you get less distracted, you don't spend so much time and energy towards that. If you don't spend so much energy and time towards all these things, you will find more time, more energy towards your practice, towards the virtues, towards the path. You will find more time, more energy in your virtues, in your practice, in your path. Also, when you have that awareness, because you know that, today might be my last day. This week might be my last day. This year, this month, this week, or even this 24-hour might be my last day. So therefore, you don't try to postpone because you understand this is most important. The path, the Dharma is most important. And because you find it is most important, then you feel I must practice and not postpone it. Of course, if you don't find it, important, then that is different things. Then it's a different matter. If you don't feel the spiritual practice, the path, the Dharma is important. If we think other enjoyment, other form of those are more important, then that is something else. But someone who have taken the path, the spiritual path, seriously committed, and they find importance in their life, for this life, futures, for themselves, to be also more help to others. The more subdue your mind, the more discipline your mind, the more you are able to help benefit others. the less you harm and hurt others. And sometimes you don't need to change other person. You change your mind and other person will also change. I was discussing with one of my friend recently, not long ago, who is trying to take care of his mother, who has some, dementia and some other issues. Um, and sometimes, there is also unsolved issue from childhood between the parent and child. And when you are always constantly there, also those bring up. So sometimes it can be challenging, and so sometimes while you are trying to help at the same time, sometimes you get in argument, sometimes you kind of, all these things, you know, and then trying to defend each other. The child trying to defend themselves. Oh, I didn't do that, or I didn't say that. And mother said, that is what I don't mean that. This is constant, that kind of things. Then the person who is taking care of my friend, who is taking care of the mother, he realized that he need to work more on his own mind. So he has been starting to put more effort to work with his own mind. And once he started to work with his own mind, you know, he became a little bit more kind of subdued, less, what you call argument and all of that. Then he changed. Also his mother's being changed. Because it's a true energy. When from one side, when there's energy, it invokes the other person bad energies. And when someone started to have a more peaceful, calm energy, it invokes the other person's that energy too. And that is, you don't. Now he doesn't have to say the mother, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do or this, change this or that behavior. Without having said anything, there's a change happening. Because the other person, the mom, feel different energy now. And because it feels different energy, her response is different. And these are such a personal and life experience. We are not talking about some kind of abstract something happening somewhere. These are individual people's everyday experience. And so that is why I was saying why the spiritual, the path should be our, priority and importance, which means working with our mind, which means subduing and disciplining our mind, reducing those afflictive emotions as much as possible. And it is not only for your own personal peace and happiness, it's for the well-being of your friends, families, your colleagues, people you meet, the society, for everyone's. Sometimes people misunderstand the practice, meditations. They feel meditations, if you are practice meditation, you are too selfish. You are just thinking of your own well-being, your happiness, and not caring about others. That's totally misunderstood, totally misunderstood. Of course, sometimes it might depend on individual motivation for why you do meditation practice, But if your meditation is that, if your motivation is to be more help, more benefit to other sentient beings, to create less harm, less hurt, less pain to others, by improving yourself, by improving your mind, so you can do better, you can give more, and when you do give, you can give better without so much expectations, so that it doesn't become disappointment, so it doesn't turn into resentments. But when you do help, it becomes really true help, trying to really help. Otherwise, you try to help, then later words, it turns into disappointment, resentments, anger, everything, you know, because our mind is not subdued, because it didn't come from the best state of mind, you know. And so therefore, so when we have subdued, when we have worked our mind, when we are trying to help someone, when we are trying to give to the society, you will be able to do better. You will be able to do more, and when you do, you will be able to do better. And so therefore, that is why we need to, yeah. So that is all I think today. Any questions, comment, please?
Geshe, we have 3 questions.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Geshe. I have a question for you. When we find ourselves in a challenging situation and we're trying to practice our patience, and we're trying to balance practicing patience with not being passive and inaction, how can we recognize in ourselves if we are not practicing patience well, or if we're simply being lazy and not wanting to make an action? Are there some ways that we can recognize?
Yeah, I think if we find our mind being disturbed and agitated, that means we still need to put more effort into patience. That means we are not being patient, regardless whether you are passive or being engaged in the actions. If you find your mind being disturbed or agitated by that person's actions, behavior, attitude, whatever that means still we haven't developed the patience. You know, whether I respond or not respond, that doesn't matter. I might respond, might not respond. That is not the key. The key is my mind disturbed, agitated by that person's actions, behavior, and attitude, whatever that is. If not, then that means if my mind is still disturbed, agitated, that means I still need to work with my patience. You know, I need to contemplate more. I need to meditate more. Maybe I need to, use different. If I've been trying to meditate with certain particular analysis, particular meditation method, maybe if it's not having a strong effect, I might use different method, different, because there, as we've mentioned before, there are so many different analytical meditations. Also, also we can use impermanent meditation or emptiness meditations. Whatever is more beneficial for individuals. Some people find one particular meditation more effective, beneficial to them than others. Also, as Shantideva, in relation to attachment, he used that, but again, we can use it for also anger, which is not being patient. Same. And whereas the object, it says, is impermanent. I myself is impermanent. The object will be gone. I will be gone. So that what is there need to be so attached to it? And that could be applied same. The object is impermanent. I myself is impermanent. That person will be gone. I will be also be gone. What is there to hold grudges, resentment, anger in such situations? So again, that kind of also analysis and other different analysis, we try to apply that. That is, and so I think main is working with our patients, as we said, working. Once your mind is not disturbed, agitated, but still you might, even your mind is not agitated, but you might see that kind of behavior or attitudes are not helpful. I don't mind it. I'm not disturbed that, but that kind of can be bad for that person himself. That can be a cause for someone to get more hurt from others, get hurt from others. So therefore, maybe I must make some points to let them know in whatever way, skillful, whatever way one can, So then taking certain action, for example. But the main thing is first watching our mind. Am I still disturbed, agitated? If my mind is still upset and agitated, it's better not to take action at the moment. Once your mind is calm and peaceful, then you can think about, should I respond, not respond? If I respond, how should I respond? Then you can think what will be more beneficial in better. But I think the first thing, is really watch our own mind and see whether my mind is still agitating and still being upset or disturbed by that. Yeah.
I would like to share one of my own forms of laziness or delusion that shocked me when I finally realized it. I thought, unconsciously, without even trying, that insights were instantaneous, that either I would understand or not understand. And the Dharma is full of all these concepts like emptiness and shamatha and the void and the mirror and all that stuff. But what I discovered is, I don't know, the void is pretty obscure. Okay, so I think to myself, I want to get this. I want to understand this. If I try and understand it, don't even have to meditate on it. Just go, what is it? It makes no sense. And I do it twice a day and for a week. And for a week, it makes no sense at all. Very well. On the next day, suddenly it reveals itself. So I guess I'm saying trying to understand things and failing is fine. It's okay. That's progress. Try 10 times and then suddenly maybe you'll understand it, or you'll half understand it. And another 10 times, you really will understand it.
Yes, definitely. Even trying is good. It's a progress, even just trying. I think a lot of time is, okay. Okay.
Thank you for the teachings, Geshe, and I resonate with the one about the parent and child, in my case, an ex-partner with severe dementia. Thank you. But I don't even know how to phrase this. What are we doing about the fact that we are in the midst of a nuclear war? How do we respond to that?
Mm-hmm. If we let ourselves to only think negative things, then our mind can get crazy. And whether we think positive, negative, I don't know whether it makes any difference to the situation itself. Of course, probably there are certain actions that the people can take if there is a way to stop. I don't know how much people have the power to change, but at least, as we mentioned, try from our side, trying to think if there is any way to pressure that they don't stop, they stop and doesn't engage in that. But sometimes we can only try. Sometimes you try, and sometimes someone might listen, sometimes they don't listen. And so there's not much we can do. And so, that is the fact, reality, and of course with everything, it can go worse, it can not get so worse. We don't know. It could become Third World War, it might not become. Things could improve, things could get worse. Is unknown, unknown, and so in such situation, unknown, there we try to do what we can, but other than that, there is nothing. We have no control over that, and those which we don't have control, whether we are allowed to make ourselves to go in a negative side, or we allow ourselves to go in more positive side. And if we allow ourselves to think more on the positive side, at least we can, at least it will make ourselves not crazy and find some peace. And that is all. I think Lojong practice are like that. All the Lojong practice are like that. You know, when we face any kind of challenges, difficulties, pain, sufferings, either we allow our mind to be in a negative state, or whether we allow ourselves to be in a positive state, or not, at least in non-negative state. And so how can we make ourselves not to be too negative in state and to have more positive state? And then we are think maybe not too much focusing on all the bad things that could happen, but we can also focus something, you know, not so bad thing that could, you know, it is like, and so again, you know, I think, and in the worst scenario, you know, if it happens, and that is what it is. We can only do what we can, you know, is as much as we want to have total control. We don't have total control, even our own life. I don't have total control in my own life. You know, I wish to be in certain situations in terms of my health, my mind, and different things, but I have no control. Everything's, the body says something else. Your mind says something else. Your mind says, mind lead you in a certain state that you don't want to be. You want to be able to control your mind to be in a certain state, but sometimes even that you have no control. And same with our health, you know, we try to keep ourselves healthy, doing everything, trying to do the right things to be healthy. But again, even with that, sometimes the body has, it says something else. And so we just accept in that cases when there's nothing we can do about it. What can we do about it? Yeah, that's all I have to say. Yes, please.
Just in response, Geshe, I'm wondering if it's just that we just have to be brave.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to be brave with what comes. There's one more question, but we can wait till next week. Do you want?
No, if it's just one, then I can
Yeah.
take it.
All right, Geshe, I have a question. Thank you so much for the teachings. For the third type of laziness, the self-confidence, is it rooted in, so the self-confidence, laziness due to self-confidence, is it rooted?
No, not having self-confidence.
Yeah, not having, is it rooted in a lack of faith in the three jewels or Buddha nature? Does one need to study more? Or, Geshe, is it just, this is so difficult. There's no way I could even understand it. I just didn't understand the third one very well.
Mm-hmm. No, with that, there can be many reasons why people doesn't have self-confidence. In terms of the both of the path, we are not talking about the self-confidence in other things. We are talking about here mainly the self-confidence in the both of the path. Okay, so I think that those we have to differentiate. You know, someone might have self-confidence in something else, but they might not have self-confidence in regard to the bodhisattva path, and vice versa. You know, so here is because sometimes we think Buddhahood is too, you know, too far away. It seems impossible to achieve, you know, someone who is fully enlightened, someone who is without any faults. Even just to get one fault seems very difficult. even trying to accomplish one quality seems very difficult. So that might be because the result is such a big. That could be one of the reasons why have a not enough self-confidence in the path, the bodhisattva path. Sometimes the path itself seems very difficult when you talk about bodhisattva path, you know. Talk about the practice of some of the when you hear about some of the high level of bodhisattva practice, giving your own bodies, and being samsara for eons and eons as much as is needed. All of this seems not possible. We feel like I'm done with this in this samsara. One is enough, not for eons and eons. That seems too much, and we struggle to give even to be generous with even very basic materials. And here, both of practice talk about being generous with your own body and your life, and all this practice seems, beyond my reach. Is not for me. So then again, because of the path itself. And so there can be many different reasons for different individuals, because sometimes because the result itself, sometimes it's the path itself, sometimes because of maybe we haven't had any breakdown, breakthrough in terms of our practice. And so then again, we doubt ourselves, but so sometimes it's about our own practice. So due to all different reasons, then someone might have low self-esteem in relation to this bodhisattva path. Yeah. Okay. Dedications then.
From Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The long life prayer for His Holiness. Gangri Rawe Korwe Jinkam Dear Pendan Dewa Malu Jungwe Ne Chen Raising Wa Tenzing Gyatso Yi Jape Site Bardu Tengyu Chi.
Thank you very much, everyone. And again, I think because the situation itself, if you watch news and it is going to disturb your mind, and you want to be aware of what is going to happen, but we don't have to be so engaged with, because it's every time you hear one time, two time, three time, then your mind is filled with that negative things, and then our mind can become quite in a dark space. And the thing is, if there's anything that we can contribute and do to stop that, that's what we try to do. Other than that, we don't want to allow our mind to get in such a dark, negative state. And so sometimes not listening too much can be helpful, especially if we don't have the tool to deal with that, how to handle and deal with that. Some people might have tools to deal with that, and it doesn't affect them so much negatively than that. But otherwise, yeah. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.